guys, I'm back with some new content for you today, and we're going to talk about Natasha Cornett, born January the 26th, 1979. She is currently incarcerated in the Tennessee prison for women in Nashville for her involvement in some murders. So let's talk about Natasha. Natasha was born into poverty. She lived in rural Pike County, which is located in Kentucky. Now, Natasha's mother, Madonna, was not married to her biological father. He was a local policeman named Roger Burgess, and he was to whom Madonna had been having an affair with. When Natasha was a toddler, Madonna left her husband, Ed Walden, and then raised Natasha along as a single mother in a ramshackle trailer. And this was just in Pikesville in Kentucky. Now, it's believed that Natasha grew up with very little financial, social or parental guidance at all, either from her biological father or Madonna's ex-husband, whose name has not been entered on a birth certificate. So according to some Tennessee court records, she grew up with the lack of father figure and an irresponsible mother. And by the time she was at junior school, she'd been alienated from most pupils. Nobody really wanted to hang around with her. She suffered from anorexia, was constantly making herself sick, and she was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She went largely untreated, and this was due to probably a lack of health insurance in the family. So by the time she entered high school, she was openly being harassed and bullied by the other students due to the way she dressed, or the way she spoke, or the way she conducted herself. There were pleas for help, but they were ignored by unsympathetic school authorities and probably her family as well. And sometime during her freshman year of high, she just dropped out. She married a long-time friend named Stephen Cornett on her 17th birthday. Natasha told Women's Entertainment Network interviewers in 2009 documentary that Stephen ended the marriage after about 6 months. And she just caved in, emotionally and psychologically devastated by it all. She just wasn't stable enough to cope with it all. And the whole failed relationship, exacerbated by her own mental health problems, just didn't help. So by the time her marriage to Cornett had firmly was over, she started wearing a lot of goth clothes. She started embracing this goth subculture, wearing black clothing, listening to dark music, and as well as having an interest in the occult and witchcraft. She was also at this time abusing drugs and alcohol and practicing some self-mutilation, all of which she'd been doing in her early years too. Young people who were similarly inclined were drawn to her because she became like an informal leader of this group. So on the 6th of April 1997, Natasha, then 18 years old, and 5 friends, which were called Edward Dean Mullins, Joseph Lance Risner, Crystal Strugill, and Jason Blake Bryant, Catherine Howell, all around about between 14 and 20 years of age, took to the road in Joseph's beat-up Chevrolet. And they were just hoping to start new lives, really, maybe in New Orleans, in Louisiana, where Natasha had spent a few weeks visiting with a friend following the end of her marriage. So while the overarching reason really for them all leaving and the desire of the group was just to escape the boredom, poverty, the families, and just the way that they grew up, they just wanted to experience something new. And they were at that age where they were interested in just trying something out, trying something different. And so they all left. And that previous night, and not for the first time, Natasha had rented a room in a local kind of lodging establishment. It's quite a cheap place, motel, and for the purposes really of just drinking and smoking marijuana. The party got out of hand, and the next day, fearing possible criminal charges against them, the group thought it was best to leave town before they possibly faced, legal consequences just related to the damage of the room. So goodness knows what they were doing in that room while they were high. Now, along the way, they were at a highway rest service station in Greenville, Tennessee. And while they were in the area, they met Norway-born Vida Lillelid, 34, his Hungarian wife, Delphina, 28, and their daughter Tabitha, then 6, son Peter, 2. So they were all Jehovah's Witnesses, this family, and they were dedicated to their faith and others, and they encountered this group at the rest area at the services. Now, Natasha and her friends wanted to steal the family's van, and having already discussed possible carjacking while they were in this room, more dependable vehicle really, other than this clapped out vehicle that they already had, they just wanted to replace it. So at gunpoint, the family were forced into the back of their own van and ordered to drive to a deserted road near Belton, Tennessee. They were shot execution style by 14-year-old Jason Bryant and possibly other male members of the group. After the shooting, the group abandoned their own vehicle and left in Lillelid's family's van. As a result of the murders, the group changed their plans, deciding to flee to Mexico at this point because they were worried that, not only had they just messed up this hotel room, now they might be done for murder and the consequences were going to be more severe. So Mexico seemed like the best option. So soon after they drove off, police found Vida and Delphina dead at the scene. Tabitha died after being transported to the hospital. Peter, the youngest son, who was found lying in a ditch, was the only survivor. So imagine being brought up now as the only survivor of your family. It's terrible. So he'd been shot once in the torso and once through the eye, and as a result of the shooting, he was left blind in one eye and permanently disabled. 2 days after the shooting, the 6 in the Lillelid's van were taken into custody by US Customs and Immigration officials in Arizona, having been ordered by the Mexican police to return to the United States. Natasha and the others were transported to Greensville, Tennessee, where they were booked into the local county jail, and they were awaiting trial there on charges of first-degree murder and kidnapping. So Natasha accepted and volunteered pro bono legal services of the attorney Eric Cohen and law specialising in social security. Natasha made statements, public statements, in which she called herself the daughter of Satan and claimed involvement with devil worship and insanity defence. The judge overseeing the trial felt that it was not in the best interests of the defendant, so he ordered her lawyer to be removed and replaced before the trial started. So the trial began and proceeded, but before the case could go to jury, the district attorney decided to offer a deal to the defendants: plead guilty and receive life without parole instead of risking execution. If the jury found them guilty and then imposed the death penalty. To their status as minors, Howell and Bryant were already ineligible for the death penalty, and they accepted the deal on advice of counsel. Although Natasha took the plea bargain, court testimony established that she did not do the actual shooting of the 4 victims. During her own testimony, Natasha claimed she tried unsuccessfully to prevent the deaths. In accordance with the agreement she had entered into, Natasha received 3 sentences of life without the possibility of parole and 2 additional sentences of 25 years, 1 each, for the attempted murder and kidnapping. So since her arrival at the prison in Nashville, Natasha had earned a GED and a certificate in cosmetology. And in 2007, an article published in the Knoxville News said that her mother had stated that her daughter serves as a mentor for the fellow inmates, as they worked to earn their GEDs. So Natasha and death row inmate Krista Pike allegedly attacked fellow prisoner Patricia Jones, nearby strangling Jones to death with a shoelace after Pike and Jones were placed in a holding cell with Natasha during a fire alarm. Although the Department of Corrections believed that Natasha was involved, investigators found insufficient evidence to charge her with helping this girl called Pike, who was subsequently found guilty of attempted murder. Well, that was the story of Natasha Cornett, who is now currently in Tennessee prison for women in Nashville. Thank you for listening to this, guys. I will be back with some new content soon. Stay safe.